Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV, and I'm the editor here at MetaStellar. And I'm here to tell you that we have some fantastic books for you today, including a couple of different private eye stories, an epic fantasy, a romance with a billionaire orc, alien invasions, all that good stuff. But before we get to that, I want to thank editors E.S. Foster and our community member, Tim McHugh. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining me today. And Tim, we haven't seen you in a while. You've got an announcement. So what's that on your screen there behind you?
Yeah, so up here I have the cover of the new book I just published. It's called A Voice for the Scavengers. It is a dystopian sci-fi novel. Um, the link is in my bio if you want to check it out. If you want a taste of it, it is an expanded version of the short story I wrote by the same name that MetaStellar published
Woohoo.
probably a year back. So if you want to read the short story to get a taste for the novel, you can go back into my author page and find the link there.
And both of those links will be in the description box below as well. And Tim, if you can add them to the comments when we post the video, so people will be easier for people to find, because sometimes the description can be a little hard to get to.
Of
All
course.
right, so let's skip over all the boring administrative stuff and get right into the books. Let me pull up the first book and make it a little bit bigger for you guys so that you can see it. Here you go, Twisted Pretty Things by Ariana Nash. This is the first of 5 books in the Shadows of London, an urban fantasy series. The other books are $5 each, but they're all in Kindle Unlimited. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay 12 bucks a month and you read all the books you want. So it's a good deal if you read a lot of books, and don't mind reading them on Amazon. So I read this one because I love urban fantasy and I love private eyes, and this cover reminded me of the Dresden Files, which I love. So I hopped right on it. And it's set in London, and we meet the protagonist, Dom, in a bar. It's his usual haunt, but this time he wasn't just there to drink alone on a Friday night. He was there working. He's keeping an eye on a recently divorced sleazeball with a dangerous magical artifact in his pocket. And Dom works for some kind of private detective agency. He wants to follow the sleazebag to a location with fewer innocent bystanders, take the artifact from him, and escort the guy to a local police station. But once the target leaves the bar, someone else gets in the way. Another investigator, an American. The target makes a run for it. Dom corners him in an alley and is about to talk him into handing over the artifact and going with him quietly when the American shows up and shoots the guy through the head. And then Dom and the American have a fight, and there's this weird little moment of sexual tension. And then they hear sirens, and the other investigator runs away. Dom searches the dead guy for the artifact, doesn't find it. Cops show up, lock him up overnight until everything gets straightened out. So the next morning, Dom is back at work, and we learn that he's an authenticator. He's able to see the echoes of traumatic events that turn formerly ordinary objects into magical artifacts. And we also learn that Dom has a bit of a crush on his boss, a mysterious rich guy. And they're thinking that the American investigator somehow got a hold of this artifact because the cops couldn't find it and Dom didn't find it. So maybe the guy, when he was running away, he dropped it and the American picked it up. So his boss has a plan that there's a big fancy party for some kind of art institute, and they're going to go dressed up there, and the American's supposed to be there. So Dom puts on a tux, and the two of them head over, and Dom's assignment is to get close to this American assassin and learn more about him. And Dom and the assassin flirt over drinks and caviar, and things get a little, personal. A little overly personal for my taste. I don't like romance, and I don't like sexy times in my urban fantasy hard-boiled detective novels. I kind of prefer action and lots of murder because I have a cold, cold heart. This book does have action and some high society hijinks, which I enjoy, but I could do without the flirty banter and the various feelings and various nether regions right from the start. Maybe like one or two scenes like later on in the book, but right from the beginning makes me think that the romance is going to get in the way of the actual plot, or even worse, the romance is the actual plot and everything that happens is just an excuse for the romance. So yeah, I'm probably not going to stick with it. I did enjoy reading the book. I like the main character. I very much applaud the fact that there's a gay romance on the bestseller list. But I do hate love. So if you are not a hater of all things loving and wonderful, and you enjoy your action mixed with some hot and sweaty action, you might check out the book because it's free. Next, we have something a little bit more up my alley, The Black Box by Paul Carr. It's the 5th of 5 books in the Sam Mackenzie Thrillers, a Private Eye series. The other books are $3 each, and they're all in Kindle Unlimited. So in the description, it says something about a UFO in there. So I guess that's why it made it to the sci-fi list. But from what I can tell, this is a standard hard-boiled Private Eye series, like Spencer for Hire or Travis McGee or something like that. I love that genre. I love those books. So I don't care if it's on this list accidentally. I'm going all in. I am a little hesitant about jumping into the 5th book of a series. So I'm going to try not to give away too many spoilers. But I did get some spoilers for myself, which I'm a little disappointed about because I do plan to read the first 4 books because I love this. So the book starts at 3:15 a.m. A security alarm goes off. Sam wakes up, puts on his pants, gets his gun, looks through the door's peephole, and there's a guy outside who's tried to kill him a few times before. But what's a little attempted murder between acquaintances? So Sam lets him in. And the guy limps in. He lost his leg to an alligator in the Everglades, which he blames Sam for, now wears a prosthesis, and which causes trouble for his, assassin for hire kind of career, right? Because like people can hear him coming. Anyway, he's in trouble. He tried to steal a briefcase from some rich dude, and now some guys are after him. And he thinks that the guys have already caught his partner, Carla, a beautiful former CIA agent. And she had been fired from a CIA job as a result of some previous shenanigans that Sam was also involved in. So apparently Sam has been making enemies all over the place in the previous 4 books. So now I'm kind of sad that I know this already, and that like she's alive. And anyway, I'm spoiling things for myself and I'm not happy about it. So anyway, the rich dude that the assassin tried to steal from is connected to a mob boss, and Sam has had run-ins with that mob boss in the past as well. So he's trying to decide whether to help or not, and he is mostly thinking he's not going to help. And then a text comes in, supposedly from Carla, and she's asking her partner to meet her at a dock because she's got a boat. And the limping guy goes off to meet her, even though Sam thinks it might be a trap. Sam doesn't care about what happens to the guy, but he does care about Carla. So he puts on a shirt, looks up the address of the dock on his phone, and he borrows a boat, because on a boat he can get to the rendezvous point in 5 minutes, and by car it will take 20 minutes. So he's thinking he's going to get there before his friend with a limp. And he does get to the meet early. He finds the boat with Carla on it, but she's tied up, she's got duct tape on her mouth, and there's bad guys standing guard. And then it just keeps getting better from there. There's explosions, there's gunfights, there's humor. I love everything about this book. It's exactly my type. I love all the characters. I love the action. I love the shootouts and the explosions. And I'm going to go back and I'm reading the first book in the series and plan to work through the rest of them this weekend because they're in Kindle Unlimited and it's not going to cost me anything extra. Woohoo! Okay, on to a real UFO story, Transmission by Morgan Rice. This is the first of 4 books in the Invasion Chronicles, an alien first contact invasion kind of story series. The other books are $4 to $6 each, and they are not in Kindle Unlimited. And Tim read this for us, and also Amira previously read this for us. So, Tim, what did you think of the book?
Yeah, so this book is sort of a modern day science fiction story that follows a 13-year-old boy who seemingly is the link between Earth and some other planet. And I really like this genre. I was a big fan of the three body problem. But what I don't really like is having a 13-year-old being the main protagonist, just because I feel like adults are more interesting than kids. But that doesn't totally put me off to it, so I think I'll be a fair judge for this one. So the story starts with the young boy Kevin, and he's receiving some bad news from a doctor. He's been having these weird hallucinations of alien worlds, and he's been seeing like different coordinates in his vision, which right away makes you think of the three body problem. So he's taken in for tests, and the doctor thinks it's some rare brain disease that will kill him in 6 months. And he says the hallucinations are just a symptom and nothing more than that. Now Kevin's mom is obviously destroyed by the news, but Kevin, for a kid, handles it very well, and they both agree to try to carry on like normal. So Kevin goes back to school, but right away in the classroom, he has another episode where he sees this alien world being destroyed, and he feels like this pulse that he interprets as a countdown. But while he's seeing all this, all his classmates are seeing is a seizure. So they tell him not to come back to school or just to, live his last 6 months doing something fun. But obviously he has trouble coping with it. So Kevin goes to see a therapist. And they go through some typical conversations, until the therapist suggests that Kevin draw what he's been seeing. And while he's drawing, he sort of zones out. And when he looks back down, he's drawn the blueprints for a futuristic space shuttle. So clearly there's something funky here. Clearly these are not normal hallucinations. But I did stop at this point after 3 chapters. But I do suspect that these hallucinations are some sort of transmission from this alien race that we're supposed to meet. Now, I did like the writing style. The author did a great job of showing the emotions of this terminal illness with the mother and Kevin himself, and her dialogue is very good. The pace is slow, but I only did read the first 3 chapters, so as long as it picks up, I don't think that'll be a problem. My only real complaint is that Kevin kind of lacks a bit of a personality in the first couple of chapters. He is definitely introverted, but for a kid with a death sentence, he doesn't seem that distraught, which is a little odd to me. But regardless, I do think it's a good book. I'm not going to continue just because it's a little bit YA, which I don't usually like. But if you like YA and you like the transmission genre, this is definitely a good one. I'll also read Amira's review here. She had a bit of a similar take in that the pace is slow, but unlike me, she did not like that. She said she wants to see the aliens right away, which is I think we can all agree with in this kind of genre. But besides that, I don't think Amira had that high of an opinion as me. But
I don't know. I thought the three body problem was super slow. I couldn't get into it, but people loved it. They
mhm.
made a series out of it.
Yeah, I was definitely one of those people, so I don't mind the slow pace
Yeah.
as long as it pushes it along to some point, but some people hate it. So
All right, let's go on to book number 2 on today's list. Let me make that a little bigger for you guys so you can see it. And it is The Fire of Winter by Talia Beckett, the first of 2 books in the Winter epic fantasy series. The other book is $6, but it is in Kindle Unlimited, and Emma read this for us. Emma, what did you think of this book?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it had a really cool premise. So, to start off, the story begins in this demonic kingdom stronghold type of place. And there's this young girl in there. Her name is Tanwin, but her father calls her Little Mutt. And she is forced to stand before her father, who happens to be a demon. And he's a very powerful demon in the ranks of this whole demonic world that is set up in the story. So Little Mutt has absolutely no love for her father. It's easy to see why, because her mom was actually half elven, half angel type of person, and her father sort of just kidnapped her mother and repeatedly abused her, and that's how this person, Tanwin, is here. So, yeah, I definitely understand why she doesn't like this guy. But on this particular day, her father announces that she needs to start learning how to use her powers because as a half demon person, she's able to do certain things like do like the force choke basically. Like I saw this and I thought, okay, yeah, that's basically Star Wars. And that's what her father also proceeds to do to her is choke her telepathically. And that's supposed to be her way of learning how to use her powers, but it sounds a lot more like torture. And then the story skips to 3 years later. By then, Tanwen has definitely thought of trying to escape. She's tried to put all different types of plans in action, but her dad, since he is also a demon, she's half demon, they can sort of sense each other's presence. So he kind of knows where she is at all times, and it makes it really hard to try to do anything. So her father explains she's close to putting her powers to good use, but not yet. She's got to continue her training, but he is going to go leave on a mysterious journey. She sees this as a way to escape, and she says, I want to go with you, trying to be inconspicuous. Why she can't just try to escape when he's not there and he can't feel her presence, I don't know, but that's what she's hoping to do, and it doesn't work. Her attempts eventually lead to serious injury. Like her dad drags her back to her room, and because of him being a demon, it like sears and burns her skin to the point where it's like down to the bone. She has to heal herself. But Little Mutt refuses to give up. Her father leaves, and it turns out that he has left to engage in a surprise war against the elves. One night, Little Mutt has a dream that her father is actually overwhelmed in battle and is slayed on the battlefield. And the next morning, she wakes up, she discovers that she's the only one left in the stronghold. She wanders around, she doesn't find anybody, so she just finally walks out of the main door and she's escaped. She's finally free, and she extorts information from one of her father's underlings that she happens to come across. And he tells her about everything that happened, like how her father died in battle, they lost. And she decides that now that she has this freedom, she's going to go find her mother's people, since her mother was half elven. So she heads, albeit a little reluctantly, towards the battle where the last of everything is starting to play out. And her ultimate motivation now is to be reclaimed by them and finally find a home that she really wants. So I really enjoyed the premise of this because it's like the idea of elves fighting against demons and then the protagonist being on the side of the demon, just seeing it from that perspective. I thought that was really cool. I also really enjoyed Tanwen Little Mutt as a character because she is a really strong person and she's very determined. It's clear that she's been broken throughout the years she's lived with her father, but she more than anything values the good in herself that she believes she has, and she really wants to let that flourish. So I really enjoyed her as a character and I thought she was really interesting. And I would definitely recommend these books for your weekend read.
Cool, thanks. Okay, so I want to thank our Patreon supporters before we go on to book number one. You guys are awesome, including our newest supporters, E.E. King and Regina Clark. And the link to our Patreon is in the description box below. All the donations go to pay for original fiction. All of us MetaStellar editors do it for free. So all the money goes directly to the authors. And we have 2 submission cycles in the spring and in the fall, but we accept reprints anytime during the year. And we're about to put out our 3rd anthology. And the links to the first 2 are in the description box below as well. All right, let's go on to book number 1 on today's list. And let me make that a little bigger for you guys so you can see it. It's The Billionaire Orc by Lilith Stone, the 3rd of 5 books in the Motham City Monsters, a fantasy romance series. The other books are $3 to $4 each, but they are all in Kindle Unlimited. The 5th book isn't out yet, but it's scheduled to be released later this month, and it is available for pre-order. So I had no trouble figuring out what was happening in the book. It seemed to begin at a kind of natural starting point, even though it's the 3rd book in the series. Romances will often focus on different characters in different books in a series. but just have them set in the same universe or the same web of connections. So I think you can begin with this book pretty easily. However, I'm not a fan of monster romance or any romance. I have a cold, cold heart. And so I'm also not really worried about spoiling myself of the first two books because I know I'm not going to read them. So Tor is an orc and the owner of a successful mineral exploration company. And the book opens when he's due to go to a party with investors and his management team because there's been a big business win. Then his sister calls him. His father fell off of a ladder, broke his leg, and he's in the hospital. Tor needs to come home and visit him. And he tells his sister that he'll be there in a couple of days. So he hates his hometown. He hasn't been back since he left because he hates it there so much. His parents have visited him, but instead of visiting them, he just sends them money to assuage his guilt. And so this world is kind of weird. It's not your traditional medieval fantasy world. It does have orcs and ogres and goblins and dragons and gargoyles and elves and fae, but it also has airplanes and cell phones and computer chips and spaceships. So it feels very much like a modern day world, except with different geography and with all these magical races living in it. So Tor's going to go back to his hometown, but he wants someplace nice to stay while he's there, so he calls a realtor, or he has his assistant call a realtor. In the next chapter, we switch to the point of view of Shona, who owns a real estate agency. She's doing a photo spread for a local magazine that she's going to be featured in. She's a little worried about that because she has an ex, a vampire, and she's worried about him seeing the article, but she goes ahead with it anyway. And then Tor's assistant calls him up to make an appointment. She's fully booked for the next couple of days, but the assistant refuses to compromise. Her boss is a billionaire, and so he's going to be there in the morning, whether she likes it or not. She'll have to make time. So Shona, okay, what is she going to do? She looks up Tor, and even though he's an orc, she finds him incredibly handsome. So that's the premise. I'm not going to keep reading, but I do have to say that the book is pretty readable. I mean, there's a reason why it's on the bestseller list. And both of the main characters are interesting and they are sympathetic. If this was a rom-com, I'd definitely watch it. But in book form, I prefer my books to be more on the action and violence side rather than the, love and flowers side. So there is a little bit of tension there about the vampire X and what's Tor gonna find when he gets back to his hometown. Does he have old enemies there waiting for him? So there's plenty of intrigue and potential plot developments to keep you interested. So if that is your kind of book, pick it up. It's free. All right, so I want to thank everybody for joining me here today. Thanks, Emma. Thank you, Tim. So great to have you with me. I really appreciate it. And before we go, I want to ask our readers, our viewers, to let me know in the comments if you liked any of these books, if you plan to read them, what you thought about them. And if you don't want to miss any of our free Friday reviews, like and subscribe, or get them in your email by signing up for our newsletter. All the links are below. And if you don't want to leave our channel just yet, we're serializing Gods and Monsters, a vampire novel by award-winning artist and author E.E. King. Our interview with the author is here, and a recording of the author reading the first installment of the book is here. We're now up to installment 16 on both our website and on this channel. Subscribe if you don't want to miss an episode. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye-bye.